I stream it live just because that's the simplest way to do it, but nobody goes on my channel unless they're invited to it. Okay, got it. Let's go back to screen share. Oops, and minimize us. Oops. Okay, so this is your full profile on the gene keys.
Okay.
How familiar are you with human design?
Um, I just know that there's different like manifested generators and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what the difference
Okay,
what things mean.
well, when they say a like you're a 1-3 generator, what they're talking about is see this 19.1
Mhm.
and this 33.1,
Okay.
that's the one. And over here it's the 44.3 and the 24.3, that's the
Okay.
3.
Oh, okay.
These first four spheres, which are in green or green and red and green and blue, those are sort of your primary gifts and shadows as well. Now, what I'm going to do, let me close this. Okay, share screen. So what I've done is I've taken out all of the what the actual spheres are and just focusing on what the line numbers are. So this is, hold on a second. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, I've got blur on, so I guess you can. Um, because to try to give you all of that information all at once is like trying to eat an elephant in 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So I kind of break it down to the very basic first step part. Do you know how the lines are made up or how the I Ching, what the I Ching is, or I Ching as some people say?
No.
Okay. If you take three coins and you drop them, you're going to get heads, 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 or heads, tails, heads, or tails, tails, heads. There's a total of six possibilities. That's what these line numbers are, 1 through 6.
Okay.
Now, if you do that a second time, say that's a lower trigram, and you create an upper trigram, together there's a total of 64 possibilities. And the Chinese figured out some, I don't know, 6,000 years ago that life can be put into those 64 possibilities.
Mm.
Ironically, we are made up of DNA, which is 64 points. In
Okay.
musical composition, 64 is basically everything comes down to, can be broken down into 64. And that's what the I Ching is. And that's what the first number, oh shit, though you can't see it on blur. That's what the first number is the 1 through 64. Then the second number is of that, which line is the greatest influence. And it's the same thing in human design. You'll see a number and a point something. Okay, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have an idea of what it is that I'm doing. The 1-3 profile is um, it's a pretty common profile. There's a lot of people that are 1-3s. The one stands for, wait a minute, got the wrong page. The one stands for being a creator or a warrior. I focus a lot on the first four because those are probably the most important to know. Let me turn this blur off so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. That's better. So the first four are the gifts. This piece that goes in the middle
Mm-hmm.
is called the Venus sequence, and that's about relationships and childhood development. What made you you? And then the last part is called the Pearl, these three here, and this one in the center.
Mm-hmm.
That's about prosperity. What, if you're functioning at your optimal level, what is it, that your gift to the world? What do you bring to the world? Prosperity doesn't necessarily mean wealth, just means an abundance of. And if you have any questions at any point, just pop right in with them.
Okay.
So the first part, the one, is the creator warrior. The one is the intellect. It's the investigator. Um, and ones need a solid foundation of something. So you're going to be curious and need to know why things work the way they work. What is why it is. It's just your nature. I'm a
Okay.
5-1, so that is, I have a very similar type nature. Um, have you ever heard the word grok?
How do you spell that?
Grock. It
No.
comes from a novel, um, Stranger in a Strange Land, and it's about how Martians understand something. When you grok something, you know it with your mind, your body, and your soul. You have a complete understanding of it. And that's sort of what ones need. Whatever it is you want to study, you immerse yourself into knowing that. Um, Ones do best when they have all of the information. That means people aren't dealing with hidden agendas, hiding things. You need to know what the truth is. Does that feel like it has resonance?
It does. Yeah.
Okay. And you feel safe when you're grounded. You need that grounding, however it is that you do that, whether it's through religion, through nature, through meditation, through working out, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you need that. That's where your body is at peace and you feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay. The wound of the first line is about insecurity. And insecurity really is not knowing. So, insecurity, the wound is healed with honesty. Honesty with yourself, honesty from others. When you get people with hidden agendas and who lie, get rid of them. You don't need them in your life.
Yeah.
The shadow of the first line is repression, and some of the key words are smart, introspective, and investigative. It moves from afraid of one's own potential to eventually inner certainty. Um, Once we go past these first two, which are the ones, um, this is your life's work,
Hmm.
this is your evolution. Generally, your evolution is going to be your biggest challenge in life to sort of work out from the lower vibrations to the higher.
That
Once you
the
do that,
44.
it's a I'm not looking at what the actual gene key is.
Oh, okay.
I take I take them out so I don't cheat, because then I get into rabbit holes of explaining what that is.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Um, Radiance has to do with your health and what radiates from you, whether it is the shadow or the gift or the city. Now the threes are kind of difficult. Threes are called the changers, and generally they learn from trial and error. Okay, touch the stove, it's hot, it burned me. Touch the stove, it's hot, it burned me. Touch the stove, it's hot, it burned me. Through trial and error or failure, you learn,
Hmm.
hey, maybe I shouldn't touch the stove. And that takes time.
Sure.
You learn it experientially. If you don't touch the stove and burn yourself, you're not going to know it hurts. Um, the cool thing about threes is they're very dynamic, and their natural state is joyousness. And they can be a jack of all trades because they try many different things and they figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Okay.
So don't be hard on yourself about failures. Failures are a part of your path, and you're not going to learn from things unless you try it and fail. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Threes do best with no pressure. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to learn. I'll learn it the way I learn it. There's no pressure. And they do best with the truth. The third line wound is about shame, and shame is healed with humor. And you gotta laugh at the mistakes, the fuck ups, the it's just a part of life. Um, some of the shadows of the third line can be being uncommitted, being pessimistic, and unreliable. The reason that is if you don't learn that you have to learn by making mistakes, you kind of want to not make mistakes. Does that make sense? And it's healed. It eventually turns to humbleness and wisdom. Okay, now the bottom sphere, which is your purpose, and by purpose, it doesn't mean what you do, it means what you are. And it has two different meanings. It's your purpose in life,
Uh-huh.
and it's also your purpose in relationships. So the third line in purpose is about the movement. If you think of blood flowing through your body, it's always moving.
Okay.
And in relationships, it can be either about adventure on the positive side, Excuse me, or being an escape artist on the shadow side. It's like, oh, this can be fun, right? Great. If, then when you figure out something, it's like, oh, I'm out of here.
Yes, yes.
And the gift there is invention, finding new ways. This is one I'm going to talk about the shadow of because I have it in two different places, but it's the shadow of addiction. So that's going to play a role in your purpose in life and in your relationships. But out of addiction comes invention. Addiction is just a way of you touch the stove, burn yourself.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, well, let's go over to the refrigerator instead. The refrigerator's cold. It's about avoidance, doing something to not feel the pain, whatever that is. It can be work, it can be shopping, it can be drugs, it can be alcohol. I'm addicted to cigarettes. We all use different things to keep us from feeling that which we need to feel.
Gotcha.
So, but that's a good place to put some contemplation and understanding. And as I'm talking about addiction, hold on just a second.
Okay.
My my addiction.
Gotcha.
Now the next sphere in the Venus sequence is called the attraction sphere. And you have a line 6 there. This is the first time I've ever seen anybody with a line 6 in the attraction sphere. 6 is the it's different because it has three different phases. Your first 30 years of life, the 6 is actually a 3. Um, it's about learning through trial and error. The second part, from age 30 to age 50, is like, okay, I've learned that stoves are hot and not to touch them. And you start to integrate that learning into your life. By the way, can I ask how old you are?
52.
Say again.
52.
Okay. 50 ish is the third phase of life where you become the visionary and the teacher. So now you can tell all the young bucks, hey, look, the stove is hot. Don't touch that.
Yeah.
So that's an aspect of what people are attracted to you about. And the gift, um, it's also about disappointment and innocence in the attraction sphere. And the gift that you have is guidance. So that's what people, you're a light. If you kind of think of like a bug zapper, you're a light and bugs are going to be attracted to it.
Okay.
That's a bad analogy. I shouldn't use that. But it's not that you're going to be zapping bugs. It's just a moth are drawn to the flame sort of type of thing.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Now, the next part of the IQ, or the Venus sequence, is the developmental stage. The last aspect to develop. It's like from age 12. Let's see. It goes in 7-year cycles. 12 to like your teens is your IQ, your intellect. And here you have a second line. It's about the brilliant mind. And the brilliant mind can be provocative to some people. The gift that you have there is sensitivity. As we move backwards in time into like your from age 7 to 12, your emotional emotions develop. It's called the EQ. So, as IQ is an intellectual quotient, EQ is your emotional. And you have a fifth line there. The line is about respect and disrespect. And the gift that you have there is acceptance. Fifth lines are tough. I'm a fifth line. My purpose and evolution is a 5-1. Fifth lines are projected upon a lot. It's about being the savior and having the solutions to problems. Um, but the thing is that people project on fifth lines all the time. It's like, okay, you have the solution to my problem. But when you don't, then you're sort of like thrown in the fire, or
Mm-hmm.
it's called the shit, heretic. Sorry, I have something popping up in my screen. I hope that doesn't come in the video. And then the SQ is what develops from age 0 to 6. And here you have a sixth line again. So there are aspects of you that develop over time, the 0 to 30, 30 to 50, and 50 plus. So you're just beginning the part of being the visionary. And in the SQ, the sixth line is about patience, having time and space. That probably comes back to the no pressure of the three.
Does SQ mean
SQ is your spiritual quotient. It's how
spiritual?
your soul develops. And then the very first part of it is called the core wound. What you came into this lifetime with, what you brought in your DNA from your ancestors. And here you have a third line. Again, trial and error. The third line is about strategy and implementation. Hold on, I have to check something. Because that core wounding that you came into this life also is about your vocation. And in the pearl aspect of the path, it's about sales. It's about you have the now. Sales is you have something, they have a need, and it's bringing the two together. Now, the way the pearl works, and I just finished a worldwide course on this, so I'm still just implementing, explaining it to people.
Okay.
um, the pearl, these your life's work, your vocation, and then this third one, culture. When you have the understanding of these three, then the center, there's no path to the center. It's the understanding of what's around it brings you naturally to that. So you have a line 3, 2 line 1s, and in the center is a fourth line. In the culture, it's about the line 1 is about individualness. And culture can be anything. It can be race, it can be your family, it could be the culture of a business, it can be the culture of a nation. There's all different ways that you can look at culture and what is applicable to you. Um, but it's about your specific you being you in the first line. And the gift that you have there is preservation. We've already talked about the life work being the line one. I explained all that line one. But in the pearl, it is what is your brand? And your brand is about boldness and security. Once you've gotten to a certain point in life where you have that understanding and there's a certain certainty and a boldness about that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You don't shy away from it because you know that the stove is hot. And security. And then in the center, the gift is totality, which sort of makes sense. That's what I just described. And the fourth line is about charity.
Is that like giving back and stuff?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's it.
Wow. So, when the culture that thing says veneration, what is the veneration part of that? Is that dealing with
Pres-
ancestors?
preservation.
Hmm.
Preservation is the gift.
Okay.
And my although I'm giving bunches of words, it's sort of like just the taste of it. Preservation is sort of like just you've made it this far. Your life is your. I don't want to say preservative because that's not the right kind of connotation. Sort of like withstanding. You've made it all the way. You preservation is the keeping it alive, I guess,
Okay.
for lack of better, without looking more directly into what the actual pearl is. I can pull it up. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see. Um. Oh, okay. The shadow is failure. The gift it within failing, you learn to survive, and there's preservation. That's the gift of failing. And then the highest expression of that vibration is veneration, which I'm not quite certain what that word means. That will be something that you can. Oop, does that make sense now?
It does. It does. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, your whole life is going to be about learning. So when you get to a point where you're helping others learn from their failures or from your own failures,
Mhm.
then there's sort of like a you have to persevere to make it through all of those things. Persevere, that was the word I was looking for. So what what do you think you've pulled out of this? What do you grasp from this?
Um, it seems that a lot was like there was an imprint of my life
Mm-hmm.
that existed when I first was born, and me understanding the imprint will help me make better decisions based on what stage of life I'm in.
Mhm.
So I like that aspect, uh, like learning astrology or some other system. It helps you guide yourself a little bit better.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to look into this a little bit more.
Well, human design, I tell people, is sort of like the vehicle. What this vehicle is moving through life.
Okay,
What gene keys is sort of like the compass and the GPS. It's okay if you understand who and what you are. The gene keys is about where you're going and why.
okay, that's a good analogy.
And as an investigator like myself, a first line, many of the people in human design and gene keys are first lines in some way, either 5 1s or 1 3s. My partner's a 1 4.
Gotcha.
All right. Any questions?
Um, no, I haven't started that course yet. What is that course kind of about? That 7-day course?
Oh, the 7 day course?
Yes.
Um, although it's not religious, it does have more of Christianity religious tones to it.
Okay.
I personally am not Christian. I follow a Native American path.
Okay.
So, but it's sort of like a brief 1 week dive into learning how to pause,
Okay.
which there's a whole course called The Art of Contemplation. And when people think of contemplating, they think of thinking. Contemplation is not just thinking. Contemplation is really about grokking something, stopping for a moment and going, what am I feeling in my body? What is it? How is it responding? What is my, not only my intellect, my emotions, and my body all at the same time? That's the art of really understanding something, whatever it is.
Okay.
Does, does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And this sort of gives you a brief, um, more from a Christian perspective, because there's some stuff about grace and archangels, which not my thing, but
Gotcha.
um, I did it, and it's really a sweet little 7 day journey.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
if it's something of interest to you, I'm putting together. I'm hoping it will be a group of men. Um, the reason I focus more on men and people of color when I did these first few worldwide workshops, and it's people all over the world doing this stuff.
Okay.
It was like 90% white women. And I'm like, okay, why is it just all women doing this? When we got into the part about prosperity then and money, then more guys joined, but the emotional and relationship stuff seems to attract more women.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I'm a networker of awakening is what I have in my culture. So I'm a bridge to like Native American cultures, to people of color.
Hmm.
And so I try to do this to introduce them to them. That's why I do it for free.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
White, white women have to pay $155 for this.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm definitely would like to stay in touch, and I guess if you get that group together, definitely looking at you being a part of that.
Yeah, that's if we do that, even if we don't, it's like a I think it's $25 to buy the course. and you can do it yourself. So it's like very inexpensive,
Okay,
and
awesome.
it's probably the best $25 you'll ever spend. They try to give a lot of stuff free, but
Yeah,
they got to keep the organization going too.
awesome. Awesome.
All right, let me stop the recording.